It is 13 hours 34, and it is time for your COVID-19 and Elections Watch with Leonard Gildarie, and we are awaiting his co host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. In the meantime, good afternoon, Mr. Leonard.
Yes, good afternoon once again. It's a deep pleasure to be with our good people of all across Guyana and wherever you join us from across this globe of ours. Good day to you. It's been a long weekend. We would have had that court case at the Court of Appeal. We are going to be discussing that. Today, I must bring you sad news that former Prime Minister of Barbados, Owen Arthur, who would have played a role in Guyana's elections this year, would have been outspoken, has died. And we are also going to, he died last night. You could recall that last week he was admitted to the hospital there, I think in Barbados. And then he would have had complications and this would have seen him pass away just after midnight last night, according to reports, and that is very unfortunate. What I could also tell you at this point in time, we will also be discussing that very big issue as to whether the Court of Appeal, if it is that the coalition decides to go to the Caribbean Court of Justice after the ruling on Thursday by the Court of Appeal on this case, that they're saying now that they could hold emergency hearings, emergency sessions, and that is because they were set to go on 2 months vacation, all the judges of the Caribbean Court of Appeal, about 4 days after Thursday. So just over the weekend, they would have been going on a 2 months leave as they would normally go. But because of the situation in Guyana, they are prepared to work through to get any cases done. So these are the couple of things that we want to say to you today. In the meantime, while I await Dr. Yog Mahadeo, I want to tell you it's been a very, very long weekend. On Saturday, there was that court case with three judges at the Court of Appeal. Everybody was tuned in on that, and there's so many things that we could tell you, including it is basically the same arguments that you're hearing back and forth that the votes were not valid because of the Mekong, that is, and there were issues over that. The Court of Appeal the chief judge that was sitting there, the one who's in charge of leading the proceedings, hearing the proceedings, would have been coming out and making sure that they ensure that they stick to the timelines. And so I see my wonderful co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadi, has joined us, looking all fresh. I believe that he would have been like me on the roads the entire weekend after Saturday to do what we normally do on the weekends, just reaching out to our people. And many of them would have been reaching out to us also, giving us lots of information here as to the way forward. So let's get right down into it. It is July the 27th, 2020, 147 days for that, and listen to it very, very carefully. 147 days since March the 2nd elections, and that is something unprecedented maybe in this region, right across the world. Everybody is watching it. Everybody, including India, came on this weekend and says, get it on with, get it over with. Let us move the show on the road. Let us get it up, and so the people of Guyana could move on. And so that's where we at. So let me just stop right here because I want to say good day to my brother, Dr. Yog Mahadi. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, thank you, Leonard. And it is the start of a new week. I'm hoping that, while the Court of Appeal has seems to be taking a tremendously long time to listen to this matter, I'm hoping that that by Thursday we'll see a way forward on this. And you are right, and Kite News has certainly outlined that the CCJ is not far off from going on their annual closure on their vacation. And, all of this is interesting times ahead, Leonard. But yes, the people of the country continue to need help, continue to be with having great concerns about their livelihood. Also, like you, like Kaito Radio and Kaito News, we join commiserations to the Owen Arthur family, the people of Barbados, the people of the region, Leonard. A great man has fallen. But like with any religious teachings, every time somebody pass on, we are reminded how fragile life is, and that one day sooner or later it's our turn as well. While some people behave like as if they're here forever, certainly Owen Arthur's death is a timely reminder that sooner or later it's our turn as well.
It is true, Yog. And with regards to Owen Arthur, I think this entire elections has really raised the bar in terms of awareness of where we stand within the region, with our neighbors, within various organizations, like not only CARICOM, people who did not understand the functioning of CARICOM, and that it was just a big name that's there, that a couple of leaders or ministers go up from time to time on the usual jaunts. I think that's what people would be saying. What they would have had after March 2nd is a educational process, educating process towards these organizations. What is the OS? What is the Commonwealth? People start researching, Googling these names to see what exactly you would have seen last week over the weekend and the ending part of last week. A couple of countries within Latin America, South America, the area there, they would have been talking, they would have joined with Brazil, calling for this process to be over with. And so people started looking into them, what role was Guyana playing in these different bodies. So, coming back to Owen Arthur here, he would have led the Commonwealth team. Bruce Golden, I think it was the OAS team. So you have two former leaders within the Caribbean, respected, and they would have been making statements. And even up to last week, I couldn't help reflecting this morning when I saw the news that I had texted him, and he had read the message, and I think he was in hospital at that time. By the time we got the news, I think it was too far gone, that they were looking to do an emergency procedure on him. And so I think Ron Sanders had come out and said that he was speaking to him right through, but unfortunately last evening he passed away. But it has struck home the importance of Guyana as part of all these organizations. But I'm not sure you and I would have interviewed Owen Arthur here. What struck you the most of him?
What struck me, well, a lot of things struck me about the gentleman. Leonard, he has the wit, inescapably. One is overtaken and enamored by his wit, one would remember the wit of the Burnham days and the Jagan days and so forth, where people come over to you with their knowledge. They don't come with a biting wit or of sarcasm. They come with just pure good wit. So he was a very witty person. He was very vast knowledge. He knows the region, and he worked hard for the regional integration. So talking to him, you're in company of someone who knows what the region is about, Leonard, and he speaks with a degree of an intermixture of being serious, yet at the same time being jovial. And he would sometimes implant some barbs at you when he's talking about his zeal to see things going in a particular direction. So when you challenge him, when you push Owen Arthur about his views about regional integration and his views about politics and so on, he gets agitated, as he was with the Guyana situation, because in his mind, I believe he couldn't understand or couldn't accept that in this day and age we would have people so bent on thwarting the will of the electorate. And he spoke on this same radio program here when he was very, very, very plain and very outspoken on his views there.
Absolutely, the Yog, and I think he would have coined a very famous phrase. Was he the one that says a very transparent attempt? And maybe you want to finish the rest what he said.
Well, it was Goldie actually
It was a
that
goal in.
voiced
Yes.
that voiced those words. But Owen Arthur, remember, wasn't it he who spoke of the utensils, right?
Yes, and so you have these kind of strange things, but the reality. While I did see some people, and this was shameful, York, I must come out and say it at this time. There was actually some people rejoicing, on the coalition side, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand it. Even we know in times of death that you would reach across the divide. I might not like the politics of somebody. I might not like the way they carry themselves. I might not like my neighbor. If somebody dies, I would have to reach across. It's my duty as a human being to do that, to be rejoicing at this point in time when somebody died. Well, he did do a lot of wrong things again, and maybe he's paying the prices. Those kind of comments that you're saying. And I said, wow, how low could we have sunk? How low could we have
Hmm.
gone? And so
Hmm.
it is here as we speak. But let's get the show on the road straight into.
Leonard, if
Yes.
if if you can please, just a couple seconds more on Mr. Arthur. It is with pride that one reads of accolades and one reads of the words that are being said upon his death. And even while he was alive, you would recall when he made those statements. You recall, for example, how animated he had become when the Granger administration had launched some attacks on Mayor Motley,
Hmm.
on Ralph Gonzalez. He was incensed. He was outraged that the light couldn't be seen and they were just channeling their the truth hurts, as my Motley would say, channeling that as their hate to their people. But it's Ralph Gonzalez said it the right way. He said, Owen has gone to meet his glorious ancestors. Now those words resonate. And Ralph Gonzalez noted the following. I just wish to read this out to the people of
Hmm.
Guyana. Ralph Gonzalez, in a dedication to Owen Arthur, said, prior to his brief hospitalization, he was deeply agitated about the imminent threat to democracy in Guyana, and he reserved some of his finest and most biting barbs against those in that CARICOM member state who, with the right reason or principle, without right reason or principle, verbally abuse Mayor Motley and me because of our stance in defense of free and fair elections. Certainly, one would remember Mr. Owen Arthur offering his badge in disgust to Dr. Cummings at the GCOM Center. That speaks of a gentleman who knows he's representing the Commonwealth and knows that he was not going to let the hands of the Commonwealth and the CARICOM fall while he had to represent them at these elections, Leonard. It's a sad day indeed, but these are the days that we feel proud that such a man would have walked amongst us.
Yes, and it is indeed so. And I think in a couple coming days, as we continue, because now that we are speaking regionally, this world has become a small place because of the internet, social media, and everything else. Very quickly, information is being shared. And so we start, before a long time back, we used to think, oh, and Arthur and the Ralph Gonzalez. So they're in a little island somewhere in the Caribbean. It's all been brought very closer to home. It is villages next to us now, and we start seeing the connections that we have, not only as part of these organizations like CARICOM and so on, that we do happen to have a lot in common with these people, but the way that CARICOM has come forward and they have been with us throughout this entire period up to March 2nd, it would have been a lesson to those who would probably have felt that CARICOM would have become a non-entity that's only a talk shop, that we spending money and they have a nice, beautiful headquarters in Guyana. What's it that is really do? Maybe sometime or the other, yoga, we'd have to have some conversation as to CARICOM, because a lot of people don't know up to now that you could go in and to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and they would process something, a skill certificate for you that allows you as a Guyanese, as a Caribbean CARICOM national, to work in Trinidad without anything. As long as you have a skill that they want, you could go over there and be given through here an application that allows you to work there without any hinder. And so there's a lot of things that we probably need to talk about, some of the benefits, some of the trading benefits, that if you produce something right here in the Caribbean and they produce it in Europe, that you have some rights that maybe you could apply for them to put taxes on that product from Europe, because that is one of the benefits of being in the Caribbean. I think they had a cement issue not too long ago with when somebody wanted to bring in cement from Turkey. I think that case ended up right up to the CCJ, and there was some ruling on it. I think it's a Barbados or Jamaica case. But the point is, as part of these bodies, we do happen to have some benefits, and when they open them out, let us pay attention, and it is very, very real. We are part of some bodies, and we happen to have some rights, and Guyana cannot exist in a vacuum somewhere that does not pay attention to these people. And it cannot be that the whole world is wrong and a couple of people are right. A couple of people, including some of them that are sitting somewhere in a bottom house, spewing nonsense and spewing the racial hatred and the divisiveness that we have seen over the last couple of weeks. So Yog goes straight into the front page because we want to get this over with and continue with the conversation. Among other things, we talk about the CCJ and that going into vacation and how it would impact on this particular case that may likely come before it if the coalition decides that's a route it wants to take. Let's go to the Sunday's newspaper. All parties must respect the election's outcome. This is India that is saying that to us. So India has come out, while it's not saying who to think, who is to go or who's to stay. India's come out, and the mere fact that they're making a statement is indicative of the kind of worry that the world, that they're looking, they're paying attention to the concerns on the situation that's taking place in Guyana right now. The headline, decision due on Thursday, don't aid and abet elections fraud. And this is a GCOM chair pleading with the appeals court. And Yog, we've seen the shift in narrative that has been coming out from these elections and the role of the GCOM chair. And she has stood fast. She has told the court, not several occasions that look, what would have happened here, low and feel, is under my direction, one, and two, she's saying that do not allow the situation to prolong, that we have it, we are in charge of it, let us move the process forward, is in essence what she's saying. And anything that is going to come that is contrary to the CCJ's rulings a couple of weeks back is something that I think she is going to be very, very upset what is happening. Her reputation is being tarnished by some people who wanted her fired. I understand that is not even going to make the light of day, because you have a bunch of anonymous persons who's coming forward and putting together something in a back room, somewhere that surfaces somewhere in social media and says the woman is to be thing. Why don't you send a press release that comes from a credible organization and says, I want the woman to be fired, I want Gildarie to be fired, I want Yog to be fired? But no, we all hide it. Like this morning, I think it was yesterday, Yog, somebody who purports to be some Van Veen that we had blocked from Kaicho Radio came on and very early morning was attacking me on my page. Well, it's just not a personal thing. I heard, and I can't prove this, that she's the daughter of our current prime minister, and she has a Facebook page. I couldn't prove that, but that is what it is. Army had spent almost 700 million for 4 planes, only 2 operating. This is indeed shocking, because we would have seen that they would have gone and asked Parliament, I think it was in 2018, for almost $500 million. And I understand that the cost of these planes is maybe upwards of $1 billion, because they would have had to spend some money to get it over with. So the bill is mounting. And 2 of them out of that 4 planes are now working. So what is happening here? Army Chief, you need to tell us. Did we go wrong? Who are the people that went and assessed these planes here to make sure that they are worthy, that what we buying is not a piece of crap, junk? So I think we are going to develop that story. I understand the reporters are working on it. They've asked the Army for some comments. all projected parliamentary parties reject talks with the coalition, Granger coalition. So here you have it. Opposition parties are saying, no, we're not going to talk to you. We want you to concede. We want you to go and keep in with the recount. Don't come talk to us. We may have talks with you afterwards. Concede first. That is what they're saying. Guyana already in a dictatorship. This is Paul, Tennessee. Your interesting conversation. If you missed it over the weekend, we would have had one of Guyana's former political leaders who is based in the U.S. now, but who's been paying very close attention. I think he has gotten his hands back in the or foothold into the political situation here, and very interesting. He has a lot of depth, history into Guyana there, and I couldn't help but sat back, and you and I would have had to listen to some things that we probably didn't know before, and I think we had a good lesson from him there Friday night in room 592. Look forward to listening to him again because we have some additional questions as we go forward. We have to talk to the people, think tanks, the pundits, and so on, as to how do we move this country forward. Guyana requires additional 460,000 acres of mangrove to offset emissions from ExxonMobil flaring, and this is coming from this is Annette Arjun. A good day to you, Annette. How are you doing? And she, has always been a very passionate conservationist, has been outspoken on issues that would affect Guyana. Her sea turtle is something she's passionate about. So she's saying we need 460,000 acres. I got to put that so somebody understand how big of an area that we got to talk about. That Exxon is flaring and damaging the environment based on this report that we see in here. And Guyana seems to have a little powers to do anything about that. So there's mixed response. Government also on the visa ratification. I think Kaiser News, this is good work by a couple of the reporters here, reached out to government officials. One sent a smiley face when was asked, did you receive any notification from the U.S. Embassy with regards to visas? One sent smiley faces. Another one sent a list of the alleged tampering, vote fraud. Some says they have not been contacted. Read the story, Kaiser News yesterday. We come to the today's newspaper, Kaiser News. It's July 27 now. APNU FC accuses international community of partisanship. We spoke about this. The entire world seems to have collaborated with the People's Progressive Party, Civic, to want to put the coalition out of government. All the media houses, all the reputable, credible organizations like CARICOM, the Commonwealth, the OAS, everybody has come together with the coalition, with the opposition, People's Progressive Party, who seems to have a lot of money, and they've been paying off everybody according to the accusations, to change the story to say that it is not the coalition that won, it's the opposition PPP-C. So here they're accusing the international community of partisanship. The story goes along. 100 countries demand recount figures to be declared. And that is interesting, Yog. We would have spoken just about this. The entire world seems to be against it. It's 100 countries now plus who would have joined the calls. And so we have a couple of people saying, no, we have not lost. Can't you see that the figures that we have provided you with is the figures that you should use? Well, if that had been the case, there should be no use for the Guyana Elections Commission. So Guyana's situation infectious, sanctions necessary, Chris Ram. And so here you have a respected attorney at law, accountant, who would have always been commenting, saying that, sanctions are necessary to send the message home. 4 days after CEO decision, CCJ goes on 2 months vacation. We can come back and discuss this because that is next week. That's the Caribbean Court of Justice will be heading on a 2 months break in keeping with their system that they have there. But however, I've seen a statement a little while ago that indicated, Yog, that they may pull this back, and if there's an application to hear a court case, that they're willing to hear it. They have that possibility. Coalition pays NCN to spread propaganda. Yog, you always talk about the RAG. You may want to get into that in a short while. And environmental groups call for Protected Areas Commission to the place remaining mangroves under legal protection. While we are fighting here over the elections and everything, Yog, we have to protect our environment, our waterways, our mangroves are essential not only for our fishing and other means, maybe to drink water, but our mangroves are essential to protect us against the sea levels, the rising sea levels, among other things. And this last story here, Troy Resources responsible for death of geologists. Again, one of our big investors, Troy, they have come under the spotlight. We have placed Guyana Goldfield under the spotlight about what are we getting as a people. The stories about Exxon, about Goldfields Yog, about Troy Resources and all these investors, about Rusal that came here. It's all about one and the same thing. What are the people getting in Guyana from this company while they're taking out our gold and oil and bauxite and our lumber and everything, our fish and everything? What is it that the people of Guyana are really getting out of it? And these are the conversations that Kaichor has been having over the last couple of years. It has taken front burner again because why? We going around the world, begging everybody for money, and we have money right here. We have lots of money here, but guess what? Our politicians and everybody not doing the good deal, not looking out for people, and we end up holding the short end of the stick. So let's put this one side and let's get right into it. Yog, CCJ, let's discuss that. There is going to be a ruling on Thursday by the Court of Appeal in Kingston there. More than likely, whatever comes out of it, it goes to the Caribbean Court of Justice. How do you see it? Do you believe that it is going to go there? The Caribbean Court of Justice is saying that they will be listening to the case.
Yes, it is. It will certainly go there. I cannot envisage that APNO AFC, if it loses at the Court of Appeal, would not want to petition the CCJ to address the matter. Now, the interesting thing is that knowing that the CCJ is going to go on its leave it's going to have a 2 months closure per se. While we are aware that the courts will not allow, especially such important matters, to wait its resumption, the court will most likely say, okay, we're gonna resume ourselves immediately to address this matter. Leonard, the bigger question we must ask is option A, if the CCJ goes off on leave. So we need to know, one, how much time an applicant needs to file an appeal with the CCJ. In other words, if 4 days pass and the CCJ is already closed and already off on that timed vacation, then will it listen to them or will it allow an application to be made after its doors are closed? So the first question we need to address is how much time the CCJ needs for that, or how much time would be allowed. That's number one. 1B would be, of course, whether the chairman, knowing that there is this likelihood of a prolonged timeline now, would want to sit by, knowing that her hand is not as well stayed by the court. None of the courts have sought to stay the chairman's hands on any of these things. So that would be interesting to see what GCOM would do in this stead. And option number two, of course, is that the CCJ would act expeditiously. Mm-hmm. Now, what I want to also comment on, Leonard, is if I may jump the gun a little bit, you mentioned that Kaitor News would have called to find out from the state media whether these airtime was being paid for by APNO AFC. And I think your article there quotes Mr. Woolford as saying that APNO AFC is paying for all of that airtime. APNO AFC has a lot of money, of course. So I would certainly hope that, I think at this stage, as a citizen of Guyana, I would want to write to the Auditor General to ask that matter be investigated urgently. So, Leonard, the other question we have then, if, and you, Kaito News has rightly raised it in its article, and I think, I mean, I'm not quoting verbatim, but this is what you have said in that article, that one has to now question that because you're paying NCN, that all of the lies, all of the allegations, all of the incitement, everything is allowed to be aired. And so one has to now ask the question again, where is the media monitoring unit when APNU AFC went on a broadside against the judiciary, attacking the judiciary, attacking members of the judiciary, calling their names? Where is the media monitoring unit on that regard, and where is the Transparency International? These are two organizations one would have to find out what is their take. How can the media monitoring unit sit idly by and allow these things? Now, I'm very happy that no other than Mr. Nigel Hughes has come out and has said to the faces of persons who have been on this attack that stop attacking the judiciary. Not because you don't like what they're saying or you don't anticipate a decision that you want, you must attack them. Stop attacking the judiciary. But Leonard, the issue here, it was already aired. The damage is done, and the authorities who ought to do something about it has not said anything. Very quickly, you would hear one of them say, well, Mr. Nigel Hughes is a private citizen of Guyana, and that's his opinion. I'm sure one of them would have said that to him. Mm-hmm. So the question needs to be asked, where is the media monitoring unit? Where is the press association? Where are all these people that would allow such transgressions to be made? Mind you, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to remind everyone, I would want to know who are the names of which ministers that send you smiley faces in response to such a serious question. They're obviously making a big joke out of this. And who would send to you allegations. Ladies and gentlemen, APNU AFC has made certain allegations. Nothing has been proven. Not a shred of proper evidence has been presented to us here, even Leonard. When you brought your two boys, did they bring any document to show you? It was all verbiage. What I know is that a lot of allegations have been made about persons who are claiming that dead persons voted and who are claiming that persons who were not in this country voted. No such proof has been brought forward. And Leonard, the only place that proof and those evidence and so forth can be brought to light is at an elections court. What APNU AFC want? They want to ensure that they stay in power and you carry an elections petition because they know they can never win an elections petition at the court, Leonard. And that is the issue here. They want to continue to steal these elections. Now, the other question I have with regards to the CCJ, Leonard, David Granger has shown that his surrogates are always going to file one court case or another. Here is the big question, sir. It's obvious that the last court case the last court challenge he's going to file is to block the swearing in of Ali, or to stop or to challenge GCOM chairman's declaration. So they are going to go one way or another. And, you know, I know Kaito News is going to carry something like this very soon, but David Granger has himself shown that the courts and the opinion of the courts is exactly that, their opinion, and he has his. This, as Robbie would have said, Leonard, it leaves you feeling, you know, in a surreal existence, in an unreal place. It is shameful. It is utterly disgusting. The blatant attempt by APNU AFC that continues every day. All they want is to stay in power regardless of anything. And they're surrogates, sickening messages, trying to tell people there's fraud. Show one, prove it. Bring your proof and let us see.
one of the things that was coming out on Saturday, during that court case, I'm not sure. But do we have an impression as if it's the same argument as over and over again? The Caribbean Court of Justice has ruled, and you coming back and bring back the same thing about the same figures and everything. Is it the same arguments that they would have used in those other cases that they're using here again?
It is. It is very much so. It is the same argument. It is the same thing. Remember, even the Chief Justice took pains to say, you copied this paragraph and pasted it here. You copied that paragraph and pasted it here. You copied the next paragraph and you pasted it here. All that has changed is the applicant. These matters have been dealt with. Leonard, that's the basis of the Chief Justice's decision, These matters have been dealt with. It is res judicata. The court has already determined. These matters have been determined by the court. And the doctrine of stare decisis kicks in. A court has, especially a superior court, has dealt with it, and we are obliged to follow those. So, Leonard, what they're saying is literally every Guyanese must have the right, and remember, everybody has a right of access to the court, but they're saying everybody must now copy and paste these things and say, well, you said that to Leonard Gildarie, but you didn't say it to me. I am bringing it back to you. What is happening is, therefore, the courts, the judiciary is being made into a laughing stock. Because how long would the judiciary make itself listen to such things over and over again, Leonard? The judiciary is at risk of being a laughing stock by these same people.
And I want to bring you to a straight thing here. I want to ask you, how can the GCOM chair be removed? Is this something that could happen? And the timing of it. I mean, look at how ridiculous it is. A couple of people we don't even know decide to sign it, and then they present this. All of a sudden. The state-owned newspaper, which taxpayers are are paying for, and they're paying to buy it also because the ministries are buying it. They're obligated to buy it. Has on it, citizens sign petition for GCOM chair to step down. Anybody contact you to have it signed, Yog? Any petition?
No, they dare not. That is, are they raising the fact that a petition exists that caused Granger to concede with hundreds of thousands of signatures? Are they aware a petition is being that has been circulating with thousands of signatures for Low and Field to be dismissed? The Chronicle, the RAG, is not publishing those, but they're publishing. And remember, the chairman has security of tenure. They can do whatever petitions they want. It is when the Madam Chairman decides she want to demit office, she's going to demit office. She cannot be fired. She can, if God, by God's grace, we hope her health continues. But if something untoward happens with her health, then they would have. But here is what they want. They want this, Leonard. They are doing everything to challenge the chairman, to challenge everything about the chairman, because that's the last grasp. If you don't have a chairman, then what happens? Then Granger is going to be sipping tea for the next 40 years in the ministry of the presidency, in the chair of the president. Mm-hmm. That's what they want, right? So they want to frustrate the chairman. They want the chairman to hear all of this hate and so forth and so on. And this is why you and I have stood by and said, look, Madam Chairman, we don't agree, we don't like with the way you might be doing things, but we trust you to do it and do it well. We may not all agree, and that's why courts and that's why judges and that's why chairmen and so forth are there. We don't have to agree with her way, but we are not bringing untoward pressure to her. All we are saying, do your job, get your job done. We wish you could do it faster than you're doing it. But Leonard, and I rather suspect the attacks are going to get even more vicious as the days go.
Let me read this to you, Yog. This just came in as a text. It's important because it has to become a talking point. Gentlemen, a good day to you. A wonderful job by Kaicho Radio, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, Gildarie, and the rest of the team there. But I want to ask you a question. Are you aware that Ganesh Mahipal has been hired as the Guyana Chronicles general manager? One. Do you also know that Sherrod Duncan has been hired in the Ministry of Public Security to head the community policing group? He's been there, his contract extended, and yet he's sitting there as a PR person also. for spreading false propaganda. And do you also know that the director of sports is none other than Mr. Christopher Jones, who's also one of them sitting there? Are they have they been given okay to do that? And under what grounds was Mr. Mahipal hired at the Guyana Chronicle? Was the position advertised? I don't know. These are things that we didn't know before. Yog?
I don't know. I didn't know that. I do remember when Mr. Mahipal was on Elections Watch a couple weeks ago. I asked whether he was a paid servant of the state, and you would recall what was his answer. But indeed, what is the shamelessness of a lot of these political operatives is that they're being paid by the taxpayers to beat the taxpayers on the head and say, you got to say what we want you to say. That's what they're doing. They're being paid by us to beat us on the head.
Isn't that a conflict of interest? Yog, let's go in. Why are we paying somebody from public treasury in a job that is supposed to be a director of sports? I think that is a very serious position. I think that's a position that was created as a government position. You can't have the head of the GA, the Guyana Energy Agency, Mahendra Paul, Mahendra Sharma, who had gone on to become a what you call it? I think he was a candidate. I either had to resign or something to do that. And I think these are issues that we would have had in the past. You cannot have somebody who's sitting in those two positions, in a very key position, going out there and also doing that. I'm not sure whether it is allowed. I think I need some more clarity, but it's a very good question, which brings us to the other point. And
integrity as well, isn't it? It's a question of integrity. And these gentlemen and good ladies would know that if they are holding and speaking on a political position, that they need to, with integrity, resign a taxpayer's position.
Okay, here's another question. It would be lovely for you guys to ask if these three gentlemen, since the March the 2nd elections, would have been receiving pay from the state, and from where, whether it is from their departments that they're working on or from otherwise. If it's otherwise, no big deal. Have they resigned from their positions, from their respective positions? Interesting, some
Right.
very interesting question. A Yog, which brings me to the other issue, because we got to get these a lot of things that have transpired over this weekend. I think one of them that I would love to hear from you. I had the impression, listening to that case, looking at the case at the Court of Appeal, that there was a no-nonsense approach by Don Gregory. There was a lot of people who were commenting about her last week, and I know that the matter is still before the courts, and there's going to be some decisions. But you see many times her interrupting. Look, Gildarie, you have 5 more minutes. I already told you that you've been allotted time and your time is up, and she was very firm on these things. I seem to have gotten I seem to get the impression on Saturday that she was very, very serious about what is happening. She realized that the world is watching, Guyana is watching, and that she is not going to take part in any kind of thing. Even some of the, when they were responding, I think a couple of the lawyers and so says, no, you must go down this particular line. The issue is so and so and so. Let us discuss that. And of course, I want to hear your thoughts, Yog. Hamilton Green, former mayor of Georgetown, a former leader of the Good and Green, I think it's the Good and Green Georgetown, former executive of the People's National Congress, a former prime minister in Guyana, a very strong person within the People's National Congress, would have come out during an interview last week reportedly and says, let's put away the laws of Guyana, let's put away the Constitution and do some other things. I would like to hear your thoughts on Don Gregory, her handling of the cases, and one, the Good and Green Georgetown, Goodman, Hamilton Green, and the Goodman, Hamilton Green. Let me leave it as that.
Yes. Let's deal with the last one first. Mr. Hammy has always been a friend, I must say. Always cordial, always willing to take call and have discussion. And I think one of the other newspapers would have carried him saying that whatever he said, and I heard the recording myself, and he did say that. He did say, my younger brother, he's referring to David Granger, my younger brother David, and told him, put aside the Constitution, put aside the the laws of Guyana. What I found strange was the choice of words. Look after your people, look after your, who would your. It reminded me of what Paul Lawrence would have said. But then, as of I think over the weekend, after he realized the public furor over his statements, he said lapsus linguae. So, slip of the tongue kind of thing. Lapsus linguae, they got this old saying, slip of the tongue is not a fault of the man or something like that. However, I want to ask viewers and listeners that, Mr. Green has decades. I think he got into politics as a teenager. And so he has decades of political years behind him, some of which has come under a lot of questions by Guyanese. And tonight in room 592, we're going to get one of Mr. Green's old compadres to talk about lapsus linguae. So we have invited Mr. Joe Hamilton in room 592 tonight, and Mr. Ossie Rogers is also going to be part of, Mr. Winston Rogers, OC, is also going to be part of room 592, because he has, Winston Rogers has done a petition that is going to the State Department. Mm-hmm. So let's talk petitions, and of course, let's talk lapsus linguae. So to your other point about the handling of the court session, admirable. I must say admirable. I sat by and I heard, listening to Honorable Barnes saying that, look, we have sat here all day. Everybody has sat here all day listening to what you had to say. She literally said, what new can you say that we haven't heard at one time? And then, those are my words, not hers, but that's what was coming over. Because I think one of the attorneys was asking, give me some more time. I need to ventilate on some more stuff. I think some people tried to put in some last moment stuff, say we send the matters. And what I found strange is some attorneys were saying, well, we emailed the matters. And the other attorney is saying, but we didn't receive it. And then later on, when pushed, the person said, well, we emailed it while the session was ongoing. Well, I found some of the, I'm not going to comment on it. Look, it is what it is. But you are right. The Court of Appeal managed the session well, as they always have done. I don't think we have had a problem with the way they manage it. My problem, and this is not a criticism, it's a critique, is 10 days.
Well,
10 days, 5 days to have a court management session, and then 5 days to give a decision. If it's nothing more, then look, first of all, they will decide whether they have jurisdiction, whether the lower court had jurisdiction to listen to the matter, and then the substantive matters. But 5 days, 3 of the most superior judges of this country. However, ladies and gentlemen, here is where I would take a step back with regards to those 5 days. When the judges make their decision, they cannot make, and they don't want you to take their decision lightly. They have to research everything. They have to check and cross-check every submission made to them by a dozen and more lawyers. They have to do their own groundwork in terms of law, in terms of previous cases, in terms of they being told, you all said so previously, to verify that. So while we're all angry at the 5 days, or not angry but upset that it would take so long, it may very well be that it's a statement that we are not dealing with this matter lightly. We are viewing it very seriously, and whatever decision we bring out on Thursday is a decision after careful consideration of everything in front of us. So, Leonard, from that perspective, the 5 days is not, and hadn't there been this big thing about so long these elections are taking, then the 5 days would not have been so bad. In comparison, one could say that the lower court acted with more haste, not haste, but with shorter timelines and pushed themselves to bring a decision in shorter timeline. But, we can't argue it. We have to accept it, unfortunately or fortunately. What will be instructive is the decision itself of the court. And I am waiting to see not so much the court's decision, Leonard, but I'm waiting to see GCOM's actions therefrom, from Thursday evening, GCOM's actions. Surely, as a former senior judge in this country, Madam Claudette Singh would know, she would know based on law, as a former judge, how this decision will be laid out and laid across to the people as well. And she has to be preparing herself, has to be preparing her commission, Leonard, that if the decision goes this way, here is what we do. If it goes that way, here is what we do. As a manager, she has to be preparing that from Friday morning at 6 a.m. or whatever, this has to happen. And as well, if the Court of Appeal is taking 5 days to issue its decision, Leonard, it very well will be that they are going to issue and they're going to have ready their decision in writing. And so Madam Chairman of GCOM got to ensure that she gets printed copies available for all of her wise men so that they don't say they have to wait or they're given a copy till the next day end. GCOM has to get into active mode from Friday.
Well, being the wicked person that I am, I'm going to say this here, is that I would love to this matter to go to the CCJ. Not, I understand that we are very anxious, but I would like to hear from the judges their take on the case that was before them a couple of weeks back. And I presume there's going to be some people who are looking at the lawyers before them with maybe anger, with impatience, at the time wasting that would have been going on there. Because listening to the case, I mean, I seem to be hearing, I'm getting a little old, getting on an age yoke, but it is my impression that what was said a couple of weeks back is exactly what was being said here again. And I'm wondering, did I hear anything new? I'm listening there, and it's the same thing all over again. But I would like it to go to the CCJ because I want to hear what the judges are going to be telling the lawyers. The lawyers are going to be happy. Some of the lawyers are going to be happy, of course, because some of them are going to be paid. They are going to be paid for
It's more money for some of
more
them,
money.
right? It's a lot more money for some of them.
I think
But
let's go on.
if I may, there is one distinction that we need to keep in mind. The last time and I'm going to put it as follows. The last time that these lawyers went to court, the applicants went to the court, they went to the court to question, they were okay with Order 60. They were happy with Order 60, but what they wanted to do is to say to the court, you must allow us to interpret Order 60 the way we want to interpret it. And the court did not allow it. Now, they're going to the court to say, well, Order 60 was bad in law. It has no place. We want you to throw it into the garbage. So it's like, you didn't get what you wanted in the first place, so now take out the entire house. You didn't like the windows last time, but now take out the entire house. It's that kind of that's a little distinction that probably is in this case going to the courts now, Leonard. But the basis of the decisions is that the decision that was made last time was made on a basis that Order 60 was proper. And therefore, if Order 60 was proper, then it has to be proper now. You cannot just throw it into the garbage.
And Yog, it is unbelievable that we keep questioning the recount. I could recall, and I think this is it. While the fundamental issue here is whether this recount is constitutional or not, the CCJ has ruled on it. This case went all the way to the CCJ, and the CCJ made it very clear. The CCJ made several statements with regards to the role of not only the chief elections officer, but how this recount is to be treated in its entirety. So here you have it now. Coming back a couple of weeks later, the same questions are being asked, the same time wasting. And as I speak here last evening, Yog, I was reading the situation with COVID-19. Well, all this thing here is bad, really, really bad. Brazil it's I think the national security advisor I see on CNN a short while ago has been tested positive. They're regretting the decisions in the U.S. right now, which has the highest number of cases, to open back the borders, because they've seen a second wave that is probably going to be even more deadly than before, in Florida and everything. So why do we keep bringing up the COVID-19 stuff? Because this is something that we grappling with. This entire country, this entire weekend, I've been dealing with people from across Berbice and then more and all over those places. People complaining, and I could read you a couple of the texts that the people have been thinking. I've been handed a bill from GPL, normally pay about $16,000, and I've been handed a bill $26,000. Our everything else has gone up. The people here, your please text me and let me know. I've been hearing that almost all the groceries, the prices of it has risen significantly. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are working the same kind of money. And so where you going to find the money is if you not don't have a salary and things are going up. These are things that are really staring us in the face, Yog, staring us in the face, people. And these are things that needs to be dealt with every single day. I was telling somebody last evening, for the normal man in the street, while this election is very important to them, when you don't have no food in the kitchen, that is going to overtake whatever is happening on the election side, which leaves people like you and me in the newspaper and the politicians to fight the battle to ensure that we don't go down that road, that our constitution has been kicked to the curb, that we have lawlessness that's taken over this place. In the meantime, while these individual countries are battling with it, they're issuing statements, they're standing by us, by giving us these statements here, which is sending a message to the government directly, to the coalition. On the flip side of that, you also have the U.S., which has come out very clearly. Yog, we've revoked your visa, and I think these people already know who it is that they've taken it away from. It isn't Yog Mahadeo and Gildarie. A couple of the media people would have lost their visas as well. Prominent media people. Ministers have lost it. They didn't know who they are. And so the second wave is going to be hitting them. I think already bank accounts and properties have been frozen. And so while the Americans don't want to talk about it, you get it from sources that these are the people that is involved there, and you could probably ask them. Don't ask us. We do have to ask, try to get the names of it, because that's the only way. I don't think they have a clue, or they're trying to put it. Man, there's not a big deal. Let it take it away. I have not seen one person. I have not seen you, Yog Mahadeo, go to the American embassy giving up your visas yet. Have you given it up?
Well, Leonard,
you need to prove yourself, my friend. What is it that you keep? I think you're bluffing. I think you're bluffing.
What you expect them to do, Leonard? Do you expect them to sit down and cry? Where they don't realize that it's gonna get worse is what's coming next, because what they're hoping, Leonard, every one of them is hoping that this thing is gonna go by. Everybody is hoping that some miracle is going to happen and it's going to go by. And when status quo change, then the restrictions are going to be lifted. So God forbid anybody has any health issues or their family needs them or something like that, then they can't get to travel. Now, I want to quote something that Kaiser News carried today in your today's newspaper. Mr. Christopher Ram said, and this is so true, nobody celebrates sanctions, he said. He said, for more reasons than one, I do not celebrate sanctions. I do believe that problem concerning Guyanese should be solved in Guyana, but I do not accept that the theft of an election is purely a domestic matter, since it infects and infests all with whom it comes into contact. It is for that reason and that reason alone that I support sanctions. Bullies, cheats, and thieves must realize that evil does not pay. Now, these people who have faced sanctions, Leonard, it's obvious to the Guyanese people that they have this air of braggadocio kind of air. They want to just show, well, this is not bothering us, because guess why? because they're still eating, feeding, living off the sweat of the taxpayers of this country, right? They're still getting, as I keep saying, Leonard, I would want Kaito Radio to Kaito News to find out how much tax-free concessions have been issued from September 30th last year to now.
We've been issued. Are you still doing that?
There has been duty-free concessions issued, and we need to get to the bottom of it. We need to get a list of all public contracts because people are getting their way and they're getting by with it. And you know, Leonard, what worries me is if you and I go to GBTI or go to Demerara Bank or go to Citizens Bank or go to any of these banks, whether $10,000 or $20,000, or if you want to go withdraw money, all of the questions you're asked, where you get it from, what you plan to do with it. And you have some persons that are getting big contracts and are getting all of these things, and the banks are accepting the money knowing that it is money given in an election period that was illegal by an illegal government. I have a lot of questions here, Leonard. I have to question the procurement unit because it would be interesting to see what has been given out. Don't forget the $1 billion expenditure up at the seawall side. All of those things are continuing. Those people are able to take their monies to the bank. Nobody is questioning it. So a lot of questions have to exist because it seems like the laws only are applicable to some people in this country, Leonard. We have heard, and last week we spoke about, this week we are going to see whether these people are so intent on breaking the laws of this country. I've seen photos already. They have gone and held public meetings all over the place. They have started at least, where people are not wearing masks and so forth. They're breaking the laws wantonly. You know, one has to question, if you're going to have public meetings now, what are the police doing about it? And Leonard, to say that you are doing social protection is really social destruction. To say you are a minister of this or a minister of that is totally, your actions would be totally opposite to what you feel your ministerial portfolio has. So a lot of questions are there, Leonard. And as I said to you before, what is the bottom line for me is that since March 2nd, APNO AFC has not gone out to this population. They have not shared out hampers. They're not sharing out masks. They're not sharing out anything. They're going out with their hailers. They're going out at public meetings. And they're saying all kinds of poisonous things. But they're not helping the poor and the needy. You're seeing the small parties. You're seeing the smaller parties that challenge these elections. You're seeing the PPPC. You're seeing the entire opposition. You're seeing private citizens showing more care for this population than those who claim that they hold political office. And that is a shame, Leonard. They have no shame, no self-recrimination seem to be going on, no voice of conscience seem to be within their mind.
I still expect you, Yog Mahadeo, because if you believe that your visa is not important, that you're not afraid of anything, that you take it and go with it, you need to give it up. I believe you're bluffing me, you know.
Well, the other way, you are right. The other way we need to look at this, if you feel aggrieved, that person who sent back the list of allegations, right, in response to a query as to whether their visa was taken over, if that person feels so aggrieved, they should never ever travel to any country again, because there is no country that has adopted or endorsed their criminality.
It is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Karen Cummins.
Well, words escape me at this stage, Leonard, because what else can we say? You determine, the good doctor determines she is the judge, and she is the jury, and she is the executioner. Well, you know what? No country has stood by you, and you should never travel to another country again. That should be didn't they campaign on integrity and honesty? Well, if you're having any degree of honesty and integrity, you shouldn't visit any of these countries again. Not again. Give it up.
Absolutely, and let me come back to that article. Mixed response from government officials on visa revocations, and I think there's a new term that is they're circulating right now. Revokees. There was deportees at one point in time. Revokees. Minister within the Ministry of Agriculture, Valerie Patterson, stated that she had not been contacted by the U.S. Embassy, even though she's in possession of a U.S. visa. I think Sidney Adcock was very respectful too, and he comes from a different party. I think it's the Gap Party. One minister chose to answer differently, and this Foreign Affairs Minister Karen Cummins. She sent an infographic illustrating irregularities her party claimed to have uncovered during the concluded the national count. The Minister of Public Infrastructure, minister within the ministry, she sent a, I think this is what the reporter writes, a rather memorable and humorous response. Rather than providing answers to the questions, she sent a series of smiley faces and emojis. Smiley faces, emojis. Yog, this is a respect that our people have for us. I think Cathy Hughes, and I don't want to believe that what I'm reading here. Cathy Hughes, the Minister of Telecommunications, and the Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, George Cummins. This is George Norton, rather. They read the message that was sent to them. Hughes and Sarabo Haley, according to this report, blocked the reporter number from the WhatsApp. They know if you send somebody a message on WhatsApp, you what I was told. If they block you, instead of those two bars, you only get or the star, you only get one. So you know that they block you. And the reporters said they saw that, so it meant that they were blocked. And these are things very important. You're sitting in the office and we ask you if you don't want to answer, you don't answer. But to send back a smiley face or whatever it is that you're doing, especially when this is something that is so very important, when the people need to know. If somebody take away your visa, you're sitting in the office here, and if you believe that you're right and they take it away, what's so hard with you saying that your visa have been taken away? There's nothing wrong with it. They have taken actions against Guyana, and we should as ministers, as representative of the people, tell them the truth. But no, when we continuing to do what we want to do without being accountable to the people, these are some of the kind of responses that we are going to get. And so, Yog, before we move to the telephone lines and maybe reading the messages as we normally do, I want to say good day to the folks down in Enmore. Somebody did call me last evening, and they did say they're a little worried about the army and the police. And they said, "Do you know that if it is that if they're talking about, I'm not sure whether I should, but we having a conversation here. They're saying if the army and the police decide to do the wrong thing, and if we decide to have a coup, or they decide to not recognize, if there's a declaration that their finale is won, that these army officials, all the families and everybody is going to come under the scrutiny of the United States of America and the other countries like Canada and Britain and so on, with visa revocations and the season, even the families that they would go after." So I just wanted to raise that point. I don't know if you want to make some comments on it, but in a point I think I could remember but I think it's Venezuela. Several persons, including I think it's a DPP, the Director of Public
Mm-hmm.
Prosecution, has come under the
Right.
scrutiny of America. In fact, they want him because it says he is took money and he laundered money for directing cases, the cover-up cases, to kill a couple cases. So these are things that we got to pay attention to. Look at what is happening in other countries, and have an awareness of what is some of the possibilities that are likely to happen here. So, Yog, it is conversation time. Sanctions. And if you've now joined this elections and COVID-19 watch here on Kaito Radio, you could get us on Facebook as well as YouTube. The link on the YouTube, the temporary channel there, that is there. You could get us there. Or Kaito News Online, we're there. You could stream us live. A good day to our Barbicians and Kanji on the Essequibo Coast, Region 9. How are you? And right across the Caribbean, North America, Europe, a good day to you. Many people joining us also on the actual dials of the radio. A good day to you. Thank you for joining us. And Yog, maybe you want to plunge in here before we go to the telephone lines and our messages.
Well, Leonard, you would recall that the former State Department officials, Ms. Deborah Mizir and Douglas Mears, they said that the way things go is that you are immediately, individuals are sanctioned, and then what the people who investigate what ministers should be sanctioned, they would immediately start looking at family members and other people that might be complicit in that ring. And so certainly you would know that persons who would come within a paradigm of holding the country at ransom, holding democracy at bay, stifling democracy, stifling our voters and our votes. Persons who want to supplant, like what a minister did, want to supplant fraud as a reason. What they're basically doing is telling you that Congress place is the only place that can determine whether a vote is valid or not. We've gone right back to the 1970s when the ballot boxes used to go to Congress place. Right? So it is Congress place that must decide whether your votes are valid or not. And as long as they say it is fraudulent, then it is fraudulent. Now, you would recall, Leonard, that all of the ambassadors of all the countries at the OAS meeting, they all were represented, or they all represented their country, right? Except Guyana. Guyana political person had to go there to accompany our ambassador at the OAS to speak as well. And it sends a volume of message, because what did Mr. Williams do? Totally misrepresent, lied to the world, like as if the OAS people don't read and they don't know to read what the CCJ decision was. And it was an embarrassing moment to actually see that a man who holds a title as he does would go there and tell people all of this. And, the U.S. ambassador, Leonard, basically said, you guys are creating a pariah state under your watch, Mr. Williams, under your watch, Dr. Cummings, because he addressed them at the top. And then he said, a pariah state. So but you know what? I believe these people, they're taking instructions, and so they cannot speak differently, and they're not allowed to have their conscience speak for them. And it just shows how far politics has eaten away at conscience.
Absolutely, Yog. And there's a statement that's coming out here on the death of Owen Arthur, former Prime Minister of Barbados. He was 870, by Ralph Gonsalves, Prime Minister of St. Vincent of the Grenadines, and also Chairman of the CARICOM. And I read what is the one that's pertinent here that Guyana should sit up and take notice of. This is a CARICOM chair and the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Owen Arthur was a true Caribbean man with deeply rooted Barbadianness, steeped in our culture and way of life, devoted to always to the further ennoblement of our Caribbean civilization, while at the same time learning from the universalism and wellsprings of the world civilizations. He loved our Caribbean, our manifestation, and cricket, dominoes, food, music, literature, poetry, and joyous living. He loved our people and strove to make their lives better. He came from humble beginnings and retained the humility and unfussiness of the folks from whom he sprung. He was a devoted family man. And this is where he spoke about Guyana. This is Ralph Gonsalves on the death of Owen Arthur. Prior to his brief hospitalization, he was deeply agitated about the imminent threat to democracy in Guyana, and he reserved some of his finest and most biting barbs against those in CARICOM member states who, without right without right reason or principle, verbally abused Maya Motley and me because of our stance in defense of free and fair elections. Owen has gone to meet his glorious ancestors. He was among the best of our generation. I feel certain that our mutual friend Patrick Manning, former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, will greet him in Beulah land. I don't know what is Beulah, but I learned a word here. May you rest in peace. On behalf of the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and on behalf of the Caribbean community, on behalf of myself and family, I extend sincerest condolences to his widow, Julie, daughter Sabrina, and Leah, his friends and family, and the people of Barbados and the Caribbean. And this is the CARICOM chair, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, and he's also the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yog some very serious statements there because he took the opportunity again to also talk about Guyana. This is about a man's death, and he is a former Barbados leader. That's Owenarto, that is. And while you were sending condolences, let's don't miss the message there that is coming from the CARICOM chair. He took the opportunity in that statement to also again speak about Guyana's situation. And Yog, very quickly, this should be significant and we have to take note of it. At CARICOM chair, who is speaking about the death of somebody, is also taking that opportunity, talking about the situation in Guyana. How significant is that?
Extremely significant, Leonard. It was one of the, you would say that it was one of the fights Owen Arthur took up to his last moment, to fight for democracy for the Guyanese people. One would remember, it is believed, Leonard, that Owen Arthur lost his prime ministership of his own country because he stood by the side of Guyanese. You recall when Owen Arthur was talking sometime past that, the people who came, the carpenters that repair my home, the people who looked after my home, they're from Guyana, so I have a lot of healthy respect for Guyanese and their skills. This was when we were getting a lot of attacks from Barbados, and it is generally believed that though his standing for and standing by Guyana and Guyanese since then, did not sit well with some people. But the man stood up for us, and he stood up for us up to his last moment. And that is certainly a salutation from Ralph Gonzalez there to say that, to recognize that even in his, on his departure, his final days on earth, he was concerned about democracy for the Guyanese people. That speaks well, Leonard. And, Beulah land is the land of Jerusalem, the land of Israel, the holy land. Yeah.
I see somebody put it there. Thank you very much, Gitanjali, and somebody's watching us from Cayenne, friends Guyana. How are you guys doing? A good
And
day
Brazil.
to you. And Brazil across there, though, I'm a little worried, very worried about Brazil and our Rupununi Yoga. I think there's a situation. Can't stop talking about it. We need to move maybe some army ranks to that area there. I understand we are told that the police are facilitating the movement of people into this country. There was a time when Gildarie would have spoken in hushed tones about these things. You don't want to get a couple of people upset, but these are times that are not normal times for a dear country. And as we get the information, we have to put it to let the people come out and think it. Like we receive a text here now. Leonard, we need to say that all ministers and PNC commissioners, Lowenfield and the rest of GCOM who are involved in fraud, the rabid defenders of Reagan are all revokees. Let them deny. Well, we have our sources, or whoever, madam, whoever sent us it, and we'd have to carry it. But at the same time, when we hear about our country under threat, we could only say it and warn our people. It is our job as watchdogs to ensure that the people are aware of what is happening in this country, and we're not going to cover it up because, at the end of the day, it is we who would have to feel it when our hospitals are overflowing, when things are happening, because a few people decided they're going to take a few $1,000s to turn the face away or turn the blind eye. Here's a message that is coming in. Good morning. I'm writing you to know that my neighbor normally pays 21 to 22,000 monthly GP hell, and they sent her a bill of $92,000, $304, this July month-end bill. She tried Parika GPL. They told her she had to pay. She went to Read and Hoop, and no query going on because of the so-called COVID. She called Main Street, and they said that she would have to pay. The meter man is a known culprit. He's writing incorrect consumptions and talking to GPL. GPL needs to recognize that this is an ongoing matter with scamming innocent poor people. How can we resolve this issue? Need guidance and help from you. Thank you very much. I'm not sure what to tell you. GPL bought 8 trucks, one of them $63 million, or one of them 4 at $63 million, one at $83 million. When we asked for explanations, GPL went very quietly or went very quiet, and then they would issue statements from time to time. If you want to make a complaint, you guys should go into comedy soon, because I think that this is what is happening here. If you want to make a complaint, we have a Facebook page, and when the people or a WhatsApp, and the people say when they send the WhatsApp, they read it and nobody responds. You want to explain that to me, Chief? You're my brother who sent stuff to me last week. Yog, you there? In the meantime, while we try to get on back to Yog, our numbers 226-7453, 226-7453, 622-222. We want to hear about the price of goods, about what is happening with regards to grocery. We want to hear also about how COVID is affecting you. We want to hear about elections and elections 2020 and how it's affecting you. So let us get straight into the lines. Is there a call there? There's not a call yet. 226-7453. We want you to send your messages to 622-222. Let us get those messages there. Let's hear what is affecting you. The slip of the tongue is no fault of the mind, and so it goes. I think there's a direct statement there to Hamilton Green. He said it's a slip of the tongue. Hey, sorry, I'm a concerned citizen of Guyana from Berbice. I saw Albion Police Station break down, and there's a building at the back. At this time of the country situation, can you guys reply to that? I'm not aware of that. We're going to find out if they're breaking down. Maybe it's a contract that was issued some time back. They're not supposed to be taking part in any big contracts at the moment, but if there's something that is issued sometime, we'd have our reporters here to get cracking on it. Good afternoon, guys. Indeed, everything is rising. I used to pay $7,000 for light bill. This is 2 months now. My light bill came high. When we go into GPL, they say his estimate bill last month was $32,000. This month is $18,000. My son them get 3 days work a week. I pray to God that they will put an end to this very soon. It's very hard on people now. Reality is hitting the people. Let's go to the lines. Good day, good day. You're on Kaicha Radio.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
How are you?
Pretty good, ma'am.
I'm just calling to make a comment. Mom, my husband working with his forestry, and then don't get paid every month, monthly, and like they hardly get. We really suffer on the activity coast. Nobody don't come around and help with cost of living. Very high light bill, water bill, everything coming up, and we all suffering. Nobody don't come around to we here. We all punishing on the activity coast. Nobody even checking us.
Where in the Essequibo Coast is this, ma'am?
Calling on the Spring Garden and the Essequibo.
What's the name?
Spring Garden and the Essequibo Coast.
Okay, thank you very much. We would address that off here. Thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you. Yog, and I did receive a call this morning from Enmore. Enmore is saying that the NDC in that area there, and we're going to call these out because we don't have time to call everybody. The NDC in Enmore there has been sharing out hampers to people, and they're bypassing. Apparently, people are complaining that when they put in the name, they go into people maybe who are not should not be eligible. Now, of course, we can't prove this. We don't know. But these are the complaints that we're getting that people have been coming to us with. And so if you're listening to us there, NDC, good day to you, Mr. Chairman or Chairlady. And could you please look into that? People are complaining that you're sharing out of hamper. It's not being done in a very even-handed way. Go straight to the questions again. I'm wondering, is there supposed to be a question or cause before the CCJ on about a question of cause before the CCJ on the 22nd of July regarding the last court case before them? If so, could you please say what was the outcome? York, I can remember the issue of cost came up. Did it come back into the light, or was any more questions asked? Do we have any clarification?
No, nothing else came out public. What was supposed to have happened was that the attorneys on all sides would have submitted in writing their how they wanted the cost to be settled. One of the concerns I think that was expressed was whether the costs of Mr. Basil Williams, remember he has a gentleman with him now, whether the cost of Mr. Basil Williams is the cost to the taxpayers, because those are the kind of things that horrifies me. He is going off, in my own humble opinion, Leonard, Mr. Williams has been going off on a frolic of his own, to quote Ms. Kite's presentation. He is on a frolic of his own that does not represent the interests of the people of Guyana. It represents the interest of his political party. And so I would certainly want to know whether those costs are being borne by the state, because somebody has to answer, where does it stop, and is there a limit to what Mr. Williams can or cannot do?
I don't understand, Yog, and this is, I know a lot of these ministers, a lot of them that I would have been speaking with leading up to 2015, and these are people who would have come across talking about the excesses of the People's Progressive Party. They talk about corruption within the People's Progressive Party. They talk about the rule of law. We could remember the Amila Falls, remember the Berbice Bridge, remember Skeldon factory there, so many things, the Marriott Hotel, and they were in the forefront talking about this. And then here you have it now, spendings, questionable spendings over not only we would have had that stadium there by the Coffee Square, we would have had now so many questionable contracts, lands being given away, or people. We raised this issue here with NISIL, and if you're hearing me, my dear friend, Mr. Colvin Heath London, um, uh, one of your managers that you hire from Trinidad, the Kaichun newspaper would have had it. Um, she's one of them that got a piece of land. This is a Trinidadian came in there, hired as an executive, that got a piece of land up Linden. Was this land advertised anywhere? This area up in Linden, I understand, is an area, key industrial site area, that you probably would have gotten it. Was this above board? Who are the people that sat on NISIL's board that would have authorized these kinds of transactions in the last moment leading up to elections? Do you believe, sir, that it would have been above board proper, among other things, to have these kinds of transactions going through? So many lands and sign overs that we would have seen days leading up to the March 2nd elections. And there's so many more that we could tell you about. Like, for example, people are telling us that all the beautiful houses, you're familiar with Enmore and that senior staff compound there. Beautiful houses are there. I think going back to the Victorian kind of style of houses, plantation style of houses. All these houses have been given out already, if not sold. We're not sure under what circumstances, or it has been given out to people, and who's been using it on weekends. You see, people are reporting. I did receive a text yesterday. People are reporting, and these are very serious allegations. Things are happening so rapidly in Guyana that there's so much, only so much that you could query into. On weekends, they say tinted vehicles, big SUVs pulling up at the guard gate. People don't know who go into these houses. They've ripped off literally all the roofs, put in new ACs, and they have people living there, going there. We don't know what they're doing there. It's running on Jeep. Estate is paying for the electricity. They're paying for the ACs, and then they have access to the bars. Big party going on there, and so on. I'm not sure what is happening there, but they said this was a state of affair a few weeks back. So you hear all these things, and so I want to bring the point right there to you, Yog, that when we see these people opening the mouth and talking about, you did raise the issue of Basil Williams with another lawyer there, and who are paying for this. This has to be an important question that the Guyanese people are asking. At this point in time, where we begging World Bank, we have lots of oil out there, $90 million stock plus in a bank account in New York or somewhere there. and we're begging the rest of the world for money. And should we not be concerned how you spending the people's money on frivolous court cases and other things when the Caribbean Court of Justice has already ruled? I mean, these are nonsensical things. These are immoral things. There's so many words that you could use to describe it. Yog?
Yes, Leonard. The issue that we have is, of course, as you say, the expenditures, the lifestyle. Look, these people promised in 2014, 2015, they promised a good life, right? And I think they knew in their own minds it would have been a good life for them alone, a good life for them while the rest of the people have to suffer. It is shameful that they would be issuing to themselves these houses and lots. I mean, everything that the AFC particularly, that the AFC stood for in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, everything that it claimed it stood for, it has, it has thrown it away. It is so shameful. It is so embarrassing. They were the ones that criticized the PPP for giving out land, the PPP for giving out Pradoville properties to themselves. They were the ones that criticized vehicles and duty-free concessions. They were the ones that criticized so much things. And guess what? It's like they were in a competition, and they're still in a competition to outdo the last government with immorality and theft and all kind of things. Leonard, when you ask them, you know what is the worst thing ever? When you ask them, their response is, we haven't done anything illegal. That's what their response is. So, all of the talks leading up to the 2015 election was just that. It was talk, right? You would have remembered when Granger swear in, and you would have remembered when they were on their campaign trail pre-2015, when Granger said, if you walk like a duck and you talk like a duck, and he was referring to Donald Ramotar. But here is where we are seeing a group of them walking like thieves, talking like thieves, stealing from the public purse, having no shame, and wanting to steal these elections on allegations, mind you, on allegations. They're not bringing forward, they didn't present their SOPs, and they're not presenting any evidence of their allegations of fraud in these elections. Not one. You're hearing, they want to have you talk about 40-something boxes without documents, but they don't want to talk about where the documents are and who instructed them to not put the documents in the boxes. They want to talk about death certificates, but they don't want it to be questioned. They want to talk about whatever evidence they have coming out of Congress, please, but they don't want a discussion in it. They don't want to discuss it in any way, Leonard. They want to say whatever we say, you accept it. You are just taxpayers. Your job is to just pay our salaries. You mustn't question anything.
Thank you very much. We go to the line and we come back here again. Good afternoon. You on the air? Yes, good afternoon. Hello?
Action News?
Yes, could you turn your volume of your radio down right away, please?
Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon to you two
Good afternoon.
gentlemen, and to my fellow Guyanese brothers and sisters. I wanna raise a point with Yog, where I disagree with him that no evidence has been produced of fraud. Because I can recall the Commissioner of Police sent over a letter to the chairperson, and the Commissioner of Police of Guyana, he said 102 persons was not around on election day of the names that went over. And then also there were some boxes that they found on the East Coast, and in those boxes only ballot paper alone was in the boxes. The supporting documents was already so, and also there was some death certificate appeared. Every death certificate are falsified, so it has to be verified whether it is true or if it is make believe or it is fake. But death certificate was produced. So I disagree that no evidence is being produced. I
Have
mean, when
you read
put-
the
when you
Caribbean
put
Court of
quotation in the
Justice, or
report,
have you read the Caribbean Court of Justice decision? Have you listened to it?
the Caribbean Court just didn't deal with the they
Let me
haven't
answer it.
dealt with the election. The Caribbean Court just, it wasn't a petition issue. It wasn't dealing with what is in the box, what's out the box, and these types of things. None of the court cases is dealing with those things.
Oh, who
None of
should
the
deal
court
with
cases
it?
is dealing with it. None of the court cases. So I have listened to all the court cases. None of the court cases that is being.
Let me ask you a question now. Who should deal with it?
I've dealt with the fraud issues that we're talking about. None of the
Okay,
court cases.
Yog, you go ahead, Yog.
Yes. So let me ask you a question, sir. Who should deal with the issue of the allegation of the boxes on the East Coast and the death certificates and the immigration issue? Who should?
GCOM, sir. If you read
Okay,
the
well,
if you read
hold on.
the order,
Let me ask you another question.
Sir Mario, can I make the point?
Yes, sure.
The order that they signed, the order they signed into the recount, the order said, I read the order. The older guy will probably read it. It said to reconcile the ballots. Hello?
Go ahead, you're on air. Go ahead, you're on air.
The order said reconcile the ballots with counterfiles and stamp. It's about 5 or 7 different things that said in the order that must be done. So when you find a ballot box with bare paper, bare ballots alone, what are you reconciling those ballots with? If
Let me answer you now.
The ballots. So I'm saying it was GCOM that do that, not the court. GCOM that do it while the recount was going on. So GCOM itself, the chairperson said, count the ballots, even though she bare ballots alone. So I am not going to buy I'm not going to buy the fact that there is no evidence to produce. That's one point. My final point before I come out is that.
No, I want you to stay on the line. I want you to stay on the line so you could be able to answer some questions for us.
No problem.
Right.
Let's make his final point.
No problem with that.
Yes. I want to ask you before you come on here, did you read the Caribbean Court of Justice decision or orders which say that Lowenfield has to go back and produce the recount results as a staffer of GCOM to the lady? Did you read that?
Yes.
Okay, Yog, over to you, and maybe you could ask him and he would have answer.
He had a final point that he wanted to make. Make your final point, sir.
Yeah, the point is that you cannot accept if you go into a process. You go into a process and you want the end product of the process, but you do not want to deal with the process. What I'm trying to explain is that everybody wants to use the numbers that came out of the recount, the numbers, the 233 and the 217, but nobody wants to deal with the things that transpired during the recount.
Well, why are we going to the courts if we don't want to listen to what the court is saying?
Leonard, hold on. Let the gentleman. So, sir, let me ask you a question.
That is why the whole thing is flawed, because.
So let me ask you a question now, and then you can drop and we can discuss it off air. So here is my last question to you. I just want to know your thoughts. Are you okay then with Lowenfield abandoning Order 60 and presenting to the chairman Mingo's declarations? You're okay with that?
Sir Mario.
Yes or no?
No. You can't give a yes or no answer. I can't give a yes or no answer because what led to the recount? When the confusion took place in Ashman.
I'll get to the recount, sir.
Then it's only one view. It's only one view you want to hear. Nobody want to hear the other side.
No, but the man is asking you a question. We allowed you to say that. The man is asking you a legitimate question.
So I'm not asking the question. And I'm answering the question now.
Right, okay.
I am saying what led to the fraud? What led to the recount, rather?
There's a question on the table. Are you comfortable with the use of the Mingo's figures, the so-called Mingo figures that was presented by Lowenfield?
That is the law. The law says when you find that you have to do a petition after a declaration.
Let me answer your question then. So that is the law.
You can't want to use Mingo corruption. You want to use Mingo fraud and you don't want to use the other fraud. You
All
can't
right.
want to use one fraud alone.
Yog, I want to ask him. Do you
if it's a
believe?
crime, then go
Okay,
file
I want to
a
ask you.
fraud.
I want to ask you, sir, because this is a question. You there?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
still here.
Do you believe in the respect of law and the use of the courts as a final settlement for all of these, all the issues that are being raised?
Yes, there's every guy needs right to go to
Right,
court.
and so
Every single guy,
therefore,
no one set a guy needs to go.
right.
Because I
So,
remember it was the
ma-
people first
oh
went to
man,
court.
allow me, no man, allow me. I'm
Ah,
following a
yeah,
train of
partner.
thought. We having a conversation.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
if the court rules, should the people of Guyana, by extension, be listening to what the court rules, and should we be trying to abide by that?
I cannot accept as a Guyanese
No, I'm
the
asking you
PCJ
because
ruling.
if you
I cannot
accept,
accept it
no, no, but
because
hold on,
they
hold on.
only want you with one fraud.
No, but if you accept that the court is the final area,
He
or we
already
went all the
said,
way to the
Leonard,
Caribbean Court of Justice,
Leonard, he
And
already
they were
said
going,
he's
they
going
were
to
going
to
on, they're
accept.
going through the process. They're still going through the process. But
So let
people
me
say
answer
only
all
thought
of the
of Father
questions,
Guyanese
sir.
doing this thing.
all right. Any other
Y'all
question
keep
that you
saying
want
only
to
thought
ask?
of Father Guyanese.
Any other
One
question
final
you want to
point.
ask before we probably
One
have?
final point before I come up.
Yes, sir.
It is said, I listen to this program and many other PVP programs and so
Thank you.
forth. They say only 30 of Father Guyanese is trying to steal this election from the Guyanese. But I have seen that the coalition is going around the country is now keeping some meetings. And based upon what I observe, I see people responding to these meetings, people going out from the community and going into this meeting,
So
even though some people say it is in violation of COVID.
you support
So
the
I
call for the
think if
meeting.
it's only these type
You
of people,
support-
why we can't get them out? If only 30
You
of Father
support?
people,
Do you
if
support the
only 30
meeting?
of Father people in this,
No, here.
why the
This is
guys
very
cannot get them
easy.
out?
This is very easy. Kaichur News Facebook,
Do you
and
support
you
their
could
meeting?
Yog, hold on. Kaichur News Facebook or any other way that you could probably get us. If you have pictures of the overwhelming support that would have turned out to these meetings, we would like to see them because it would give us an idea what to write. So
But
we'd
they
like
have
some
nobody
help
should
from
attend
there.
their meeting. They should always be them alone. If they're so bad, nobody should be attending their meeting.
No, but
Does
if you have the pictures
do
of
you
how
know if anybody
overwhelming it
attended it?
is.
You have
Right,
any
right.
photo?
All right. I think,
Newsroom show photos that are violating the COVID-19 things, and it show the people at the meeting. Your newsroom that carries things every day that has been
All
covering
right.
the whole
Thank you,
election
sir.
throughout.
all right. Any other
Newsroom,
question?
man.
Any other points, sir,
You
before
just
we hang up
answered
there?
a very, very important question for us because it means you accept that the meetings are okay even though they're in a breach of the laws. And earlier you said the laws are superior and you would respect the laws. But these meetings are in
The
total
coalition
breach
is
of the
being
law.
pushed in a corner. The coalition is being pushed. The people surround the coalition by
Correct.
their neck, so they have to fight for their survival. This is what doing now. I don't think the coalition had wanted to do it, but based upon the entire world has squeezed the coalition by their neck and have the
The
knee
entire
upon them,
world is
they
wrong, only
decide
the
to
coalition,
they
right?
decide to retaliate. This
But
is what's
why?
happening.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much,
Correct.
caller. Do have a pleasant rest of the day. And I must say that this radio station is open to all Guyanese to put their comments forward, and that's the way it's going to go. Over to you, Yog.
Thank you. So let's deal with them one at a time. So that gentleman, sir, I don't know if I honestly believe you're very selective in your reasoning and you believe you are pushed in a corner and so you're not going to listen to any reason. And that's what happens when people tell themselves a lie so much times. So I'll say it as follows. The boxes of the East Coast, there is nothing wrong. What we have is the information that the East Coast polling officers were instructed by Mingo and his deputy to not put the boxes in, to put the documents in the boxes. But nobody wants to have this discussion. This discussion must be heard by a court, by an elections court. If you have a problem with a box, let us go to the judge and you put your side and I will put my side. But what has happened here is you determine and your people determine, oh, the boxes didn't get the thing, therefore we must burn the ballots. The people who stood in the sun all day to cast their vote because of you, your Mingo, and your deputy telling the election officer to not put the stuff in the box, you want to burn those people's constitutional right to have their ballots counted. That is what is happening. You want that because Mingo and whoever else decide they are not going to follow the laws, the election laws, that the people of this country must suffer and their votes must not count. That is what you want. Well, that can only be determined by a judge. Secondly, so that's the East Coast boxes. Secondly, the death certificate. Who produced the death certificate? From where? How? Who will determine whether the death certificates are fake or real? Is it because Congress place say this is a death certificate, we must accept it? Well, I don't accept that. A judge has to say, let us call the registrar, let us see whether these records are proper, and then we'll say so. So that is a very shameful aspersion. And thirdly, Leonard, Order 60. The gentleman said Order 60 says to reconcile, and I agree. Why are we fighting? Your party is in the court today to say, burn up Order 60, it is no good. You want to go use Mingo's figures, but you want to have your president sworn in with a fraud that you have 20,000 votes that never voted, people that never voted, dead people. I don't know where Mingo got them from, maybe from the cemetery. But you want to swear in a president on that, but you want to burn people who voted. You want to burn their votes. Only a judge could determine that. Not you, not Congress place, nobody else. An elections court has to listen to that. Why are you guys so afraid of an elections petition? Why are you so afraid to go in front of a judge and prove that there was fraud? Why are you so afraid to go in front of a judge and accuse Anil Nandlal of some ID story? Why are you so afraid to go in front of a judge and say that the boxes were missing, the documents were missing from the boxes? And let's talk about the reconciliation now. We got video to show that the documents Mingo claimed he doesn't have was with him, was at the GCOM building, was there all the time. But sir, the truth is, you are accusing all the countries of the world, every single country of the world, for having something against APNU AFC. So everybody is wrong except your party. But you want your party to be sworn in with fictitious votes. You want your party to be sworn in while your ministers, your people are getting duty-free concessions. You didn't call and say, man, GPL should ease up on their rates. You didn't call and say, and your party is not talking about the people who are, starving in the country. No. All you're fighting about is to make wrong right. Because you say that these votes were frauded, it was frauded. Finally, Leonard, he mentioned the Leslie James matter, that Leslie James wrote to the chairman of commission and say 172 names were according to his records, were not in the country. He failed to read after that. He failed to read after that two things. One is Kaiser News went into an in-depth investigation of those names. Well, three things. Two is that people call into the same program and say, what is my name doing on that list? I was here. Remember the Dave Kisoon matter when they say he was not in the country? And the man was an observer in these elections. And Leonard, three, the chairman said, I don't know how people are seeing this as law. The chairman clearly said on June 16th, what is the law? GCOM is not a court. GCOM is constrained to follow the laws that are there. It is not a court to conduct such investigation. And I don't know why you are so ashamed and frightened, as we the same Creoles, to carry this matter for a judge to hear. Why didn't Basil Williams or your attorney or any one of them carry all the fraud and list it out to a judge and say, listen, this is the fraud, because you know you cannot hold up in court? And that is the issue here, Leonard. They're scared of going to the court knowing that they don't have a case. But you want to steal an election and you want to be happy. So you said, sir, that a lot of people are turning up at these meetings APNU AFC is holding that is a breach of the laws of this country. But suddenly the laws are against the whole law of Guyana, and all the countries of the world has something against APNU AFC. Can you tell me why?
I can't answer you that. What I could ask, what is something that is worrying me, um, the rule of law. When a court has delivered decisions, especially when that Caribbean Court of Justice decision at that time there, I thought that was it. It was so very airtight, how Saunders came down and everything. We would have gone in a particular direction. I thought it was over, that we'd move on with this country here. Here it is now that nobody's paying attention to that Caribbean Court of Justice rulings, and there were several points that were made, including of Keith Lowenfield, of how the recount is to be treated, and everything else. And here it is that we're going back to the same issues that was already dealt with at the apex court. I mean, I don't understand. And so, what are we saying? That if a court summoned me to go to court and I refuse to go, do I have a right to do that? The court
No,
is the authority, is the final authority.
correct. And Leonard, the argument, I mean, I am amazed that people are so, let me use the phrase, there's so much Kool-Aid that you become unreasonable. You're not seeing that Leslie James's letter is questionable. The caller himself admit that the death certificates could be fake, you know. So if one set of things could be fake, why must we believe the rest? Listen, the last thing I'll say on that point, and let me just move on, because this shows how much ingrained and brainwashed things are. Leonard, when APNU AFC stood up in the recount center and said, did Dave Kisoon, did this serial number vote? And the GCOM person said yes. Nobody was allowed to check whether GCOM said the right thing or not. We don't know whether another Mingo was sitting there. We don't know whether Mr. Mingo's best friend was sitting there and telling a blatant lie that those things were ticked off or not. Nobody was allowed to check. What we have seen is the people at GCOM, some of them, not all, there are some decent people there, but some of the people at GCOM decided that they're gods. And what they say, and they're obviously taking instructions from Congress Place and other places, what they're saying, you have to accept. And there is a gentleman that accepted it wholly and solely, Leonard.
Thank you very much, Yog. And at this point in time, if you're now joining us, elections, COVID-19 watch here on Kaicho Radio. Yog, our reports a little earlier were incorrect, stating that the government has not done anything. I'm looking here at a notice. It's a purported notice because we don't have any confirmation. That this afternoon, this evening, Linden welcomes Honorable Minister of Social Protection, Ms. Amna Ali MP, General Secretary of the People's National Congress Reform. You're invited to a special meeting on Monday, the 27th of July 2020 at Egbert Benjamin Center at 4 p.m. sharp. Attending families, and listen to this carefully, Yog, attending families will receive $30,000 for COVID-19 assistance. I presume the government is now saying here that all across the country that they would be going sharing out $30,000. So I think this is major breaking news now.
No,
I
I think on the AFC's page, the APNO AFC's page, they said that it is fake.
It is fake?
Yeah, I think on the APNO AFC's page, they have shared something with an X on it and say that is fake. Now, I don't know what part is fake, whether it's the news, the meeting that is fake, or the
or the 30,000?
Yeah, or the 30,000. They didn't specify what was fake. They just said it's fake. But we certainly would want to hear from people whether anything is so or not. I just wanna harken back to something, Leonard. We keep hearing all of these narratives over and over again about dead people voting and migrant people voting. Leonard, a tick on a list doesn't say anything. Proving a death certificate is real or not doesn't say whether that person, that purported person, voted or not. This thing is big, and this thing is belongs to the court, is a legal quagmire, is a legal nightmare, and can only be heard in an elections court, because that's where they would have all the experience to determine these issues. But, it proves nothing. Look, you cannot prove, can anybody prove that a dead man voted? Leonard, when you think of what transpired in a polling place, a person votes on a ballot paper, and the ballot paper goes into the box. And other people around, agents and polling clerks and so forth, they would have ticked off on a list that this person, or they scratch off on a list that this person came and didn't come. And I think I remember a situation or two where it was even questioned that when they strike off Leonard Gildarie's name, that, okay, you came, the person said, my ruler was not on Leonard Gildarie's name, it was on the person below your name. So the wrong person gets struck off on polling off, on election agent number 1, while on ANOG party representative list, they strike off Leonard Gildarie's name, and on the next person's name was not. So if everybody in a particular page didn't vote, who did it? It gets to be a ridiculous discussion that has to see the light of day within an elections court, Leonard. It cannot be taken easily, but proving a death certificate is real or not, and thank you for pointing this out, my friend, proving a death certificate is real or not does not prove whether that serial number, that person voted or not. It is chalk to cheese, and people are conflating and conflicting issues, Leonard. And ticks on a list, if you have ticks on a list, it is not a concrete evidence that Mr. X voted. You have to get a ballot. And remember, the ballot now, the ballot paper has no ID.
Man,
yeah, it is when people talk, it's a lot of things that their political leaders are inserting and implanting and feeding their brains. That if I have a ballot paper here, I have to now know that this is Leonard Gildarie's ballot paper. How do I know it's Leonard Gildarie's ballot paper? Because if you are ID'd on the ballot paper, it's a spoiled vote.
Well, let us see how it happened. But I know you have dashed my hopes. I was about to ask Glenn, and I would have picked you up and we'd have go up Linden and collect 30,000 or 60,000 dollars. I don't know. Any case, let's go to the lines. Good afternoon, caller, you on the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller, you on the air. Please lower your volume on your radio, please.
Yeah, volume low.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, caller, you on the air.
Yeah. If the boxes that Mr. Yog Mahadeo's team is in the hands of GCOM people, is you aware that there was a meeting called by Mr. Lowenfield and GCOM with the officers that they said and in their papers, and none of them turned up to the meeting? Is he aware of that? The same meeting that they said, these same officers who are in documents, they were invited to a meeting to where Mr. ordered an investigation into these documents. After the Secretariat
yes,
that,
let's answer you.
Some persons said the PP put up some posts saying that this one or two of these persons said that this is what was instructed to them not to honor the document.
Well, let's answer you now.
I think about 6 or 7 persons then submit that we didn't receive no such instruction from Mr. Mingo or any other person. After that, a meeting was called. These these personnel who are
we know the
who claim
details.
that they submit these documents to this. A meeting was had none of them come to the meeting.
All right, ask the questions and we're going to take it off here. Go ahead.
Right. And the second, I want to ask Mr. Yog Mahadeo this question. Sir, do you believe, yes or no, that 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or any dead person voted in, they was ticked off as, well, that person can't vote. We know that person can't vote, as you said just now. But people's name have been ticked off as vote, that person voted. This is Mr. Yormio, and I want Mr. Yormio to know that people are not afraid of no petition, because Soon as this place we appreciate in the child, this whole election on the child, soon as it's a petition court. It is the process started with the people first went to the court and stop the
What's
petition.
your question?
They first started.
What is the question?
You don't say what we are the courts are afraid of petition. Soon as election finish, soon as declaration finish, either way, it's going to petition.
All
Simple
right,
as
you're
that.
holding up
Anyway,
other people's calls. What is your question?
The question is Mr. Yog Mahadeo confident that no dead person voted in this election or no person that was overseas voted in this election? That's my question. Is he confident that no dead person voted and no person that was
I want to
voted in this
ask you,
election?
are you aware that dead persons voted?
Dead people name that was crossed off, people in my village, people in my street, name was picked off as voted. It is not what you haven't realized in an election fraud. It is when the polling station closed the fraud took place, not during the election day. It's when the polling station closes, there is where the corruption that started to take place.
So your election agent, your representative that was in the polling booth was corrupt then?
I could give Mr. Gildarie a story off air. I could give him a story off air.
Let's pause here because you said your question already. This is illogical, and I'll answer your question, Leonard.
Yes.
I'll answer your question.
Any other question to ask quickly, Kwalo?
No. There's another question I asked Mr. Gildarie sometime, but he always does the question. When he goes into his answers, he always does the question. And the question that I always asked about 3 times now is that if these international agencies, the diplomats and the ambassadors and all of them, if they always use one favorite line, we have no arse in the race. They always say that, we have no arse in the race. But my question is this, that I asked before, if any one of these 8 people had an arse in the race, they favor either any party, will they ever come out public and say, we are in favor of the PP or we are in favor of the coalition? Will any ambassador, any international forum, or any international agency, or these ABC countries, or any one of them, will they ever say that?
Let me answer you now.
They will never say it publicly.
All right, let me answer you now.
Thank you very much, caller.
Leonard, he said he asked that 2-3 times. This is the first time I'm hearing his question. But
please answer the man's question. You do not beat around the bush.
Let me answer the man's question. Number 1, sir, in 2015, it was the U.S. ambassador, the U.S. embassy, and the Canadian embassy, and everybody that were then accused by the PPP that they were backing APNU and wanted to get rid of the PPP. Yog Mahadeo and Kaitunos, at that stage, we did not say they were taking a side. They said they had no horse in the race, but PPP felt aggrieved. Now, APNU feels aggrieved, and they keep on saying they have no horse in the race. Did they have a horse in the race in 2015? Do they have a horse in the race now? So the illogics continue. The second question that the gentleman asked, that he know dead people voted. Well, I don't know, sir, how you know dead people vote, because I don't know whose ballots belong to who. I don't know who ballot paper. Nobody ballot paper got their name or there's anything on it. What we do know is you're marrying an unidentifiable document with something that people say they take off. Now you got to prove to me, and I don't know the answer whether the dead man voted or not, that's why it, according to the laws of Guyana, which I follow, and I certainly hope you can, we go to the judge and let the judge determine whether there were such evidences to show that it was of such questionable nature to declare the elections null and void. I cannot ask Claudette Singh to do what she is not allowed in law to do. And Order 60 ask that these things be checked, but Order 60 never determined that you must burn people's ballots out of an allegation. What has happened here, Leonard, is that one side is making allegations and they believe that we have to accept the allegation. I think I answered both questions there.
Thank you very much there. And I will tell you right now that I just saw a funeral service for Komal Chan. You recall that Komal Chan left here in February, the former union leader of the Guyana and General Agricultural Workers Union, GAWU. He would have gone to Cuba for treatment, died there, and he and his wife were left stuck. The body, the remains, and the wife was left stuck over there. They came over the weekend, and they're saying here that the funeral will be held tomorrow, Tuesday, at 8:30, 9:30 p.m. at Lagrange, West Bank. Then it's gonna go to Kashi Dam for cremation. There's Rhymesek. So that is a lot of people were paying attention to this case. One of the one of the collaterals of this COVID-19 here, Yog. So probably we could head back to the line also. Yes. Good day, caller, you in the air. I think we missed that one. Good afternoon, Yog and Leonard. Glad you raised the topic of the fact that Guyana has a lot of money. I'm not sure they said they have well, in terms of resources. I posted in spite of all the resources, we always begging. I just saw Winston Jordan asking partners to help to mitigate COVID-19. They were fortunate they got some money. The population again is so small, lots of death occurred. It's convincing that these people who want to run this country have no knowledge of running it. Can programs be here to enlighten people about our resources? And they go down. Green getting senile. What about Mr. Vincent Tika Singh? History needs to be published. Lots of people never heard of the happenings, but Mr. Ramjatan started to state them seriously. I pray that some of you would have the fortitude and mental strength. Thank goodness you go home to family where you find reprieve. Yes, I do sleep good at the end of the night. I pray too. I pray for my country. Yoga, let me see what else is happening here.
Meanwhile,
Yes.
you're checking through, Leonard, let me just respond to Jai Prasad. Jai, I think based on the Kaiser News article of today, they would have announced that repatriation flights and the airports and so forth may be reopened by August 28th. But remember that the authorities continue to keep their eyes on what's happening. And so while they have said August 28th, it may be something that you want to keep in mind that, if something untoward happened, then they may want to revisit that date. But so far, based on Kaiser News as of today, they would have said August 28th.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Yog. Good day, Yog. Where's Mingo right now? And low and field assistant who manipulated Mingo spreadsheet. They're in region one hiding. Some people brain dead because of the 80s. Um, let me see another one here. Somebody deleted that comment. I'm not sure what they wanted to say. Good day to you, gentlemen. As it relates to the caller who is a supporter of the coalition, it's not surprising of the excuses being given to justify the fraud. It's just being labeled at the words of the propagandist pulled by Mr. Lampi and Pampi. However, what is disturbing is what he thinks that the coalition is doing all this for their survival. I think this is because, innocent as it may sound, it is not. It's spreading a message of non-acceptance, and if force can be violent. I'm not sure about being violent. I don't agree with this text here that which says that it is going to turn out
Exactly.
violent.
And I think John Abrams online is making an excellent point. So that call, I would really like to know you, sir, so that when this matter get to the elections petitions case, I think you should come to the court and give the evidence to the dead people that you said voted. Because Leonard, all of it, I mean this very seriously. We all have to ensure whatever evidences we have, whatever we can contribute to, and to ensure that the court make a proper decision, let us do it.
Yes, absolutely, Yog. And you know, one of the biggest fears that I have right now, I did allude to it a couple of times on this particular program, is while this is all happening, we have a big threat that is developing in Guyana, Yog. And I'm not sure people are paying attention. If you're living in communities like the Diamond Grove area, there's a big population of Venezuelans and Brazilians across here. A lot of people are fleeing the situation over there. Now, my issue here, I want to make it very, very clear, is not people coming into our country. It's people coming under a uncontrolled environment, meaning the immigration people don't know. The health people probably not doing anything about it. So we don't know what is happening. What we do know is that the borders, they're using the borders, the wide open borders, to sneak across to get away from things. And so when you come here and the health people don't know, they're not able to check your temperature, maybe put the necessary test, offer you those kind of protection for the rest of the population, just in case that you may have something like the COVID-19. In the meantime, we have a huge population springing up along these banks there. Lots of homes being rented. A lot of people are desperate for money, are renting out their homes and so on. So it's a big underground thing that's happening. Nobody wants to talk about it, but there's a big population that is growing here, that has some severe health implications. And we know if we look towards Brazil, what is happening, it's something that we should be very alarmed with. While we don't have an issue of our people, they have opened their borders and doors to us in the past. It has to be done in a very controlled manner, and so you got to hear us very clearly. Making it very clear, Yog, that nobody don't misquote Gildarie and say that he's against anybody coming in. It has to be done in a controlled manner. We have to protect our people, Yog, and everybody is welcome to help develop Guyana, but in a controlled manner. I'm not sure if you've been seeing or hearing the same thing, but it is something that we have to pay attention to.
Absolutely, Leonard. Absolutely. Everybody has to contribute. And, it saddens our heart. I mean, Sister Jean just shared something as well. There are families in this country that are not on the borderline of poverty, they are in poverty. It's when we go out to share hampers and when we go out to share food stuff that we are seeing the abject poverty that people are living in. And Leonard, I repeat again, this APNO AFC cabal is going around this country having meetings, but they're not going around helping people. If they had used these last 140 something days, Leonard, to help people out rather than help themselves, to share foodstuffs, to share hamper, maybe one would have said they're doing some good. But all they're doing is paying hundreds of millions of dollars to fight case after case after case to just delay a declaration of these elections. Now you look at persons who are going out and look at persons who are sharing out foodstuff, but more so, look at the plight of the people. Look at what's happening, Leonard. You go up East Coast, you go at what the place name just after you pass Canal Number 2 going towards Wales. You go to some of these areas, Leonard, and people are in need. You go up the quarantine, you go various places, people are in so much need. And you cannot help everybody. But all of this money we are spending, ladies and gentlemen, I have said from day one, and I will say it again. If you look at the total salaries being drawn down by some of these so-called ministers in government, if you look at their salaries, the taxpayers' money being used to pay them while brothers and sisters are starving in this country, it shows you their heartless nature. Leonard, while they're enjoying the good life, their electricity bills are being paid for by the taxpayers. Everything is being paid for. Their driving, their tax, their fuel in their vehicles, their water, their phone bills. All of those nonsense being spewed over the Guyana rag and over the airways are being paid for by taxpayers. Ladies and gentlemen, while one of the ministers or two or three of them are going all out there to talk to you at these public meetings, you are paying their salary to come in front of you and tell you the political things they're telling. And that is a shame, Leonard, that nobody is being helped by the politicians that hold office. I know that a lot of the politicians that do not hold office, they're presently helping people, and I want to say thanks to them.
And thank you very much. And this is a text coming from Berbice. APNO AFC yesterday hosted 12 meetings throughout Region 6 with residents despite not having permission from the Guyana Police Force. Commander of Region 6, Calvin Brutus, when contacted yesterday, stated that no permission was granted for any meeting to be held within the region, whether it's public or private. So there you have it. The police are not functioning.
Yeah, but what they're doing about it, they haven't given permission, but they know the invitations to those meetings were made public.
But that's why,
Leonard, when there is a funeral and people assemble at the funeral, what they do, they go and they hold up the people at the funeral, they go and they hold up the priest or the pastor or the Maulana and Imam. They go and they hold the priest, the pastor, or the imam. when there is a religious function, or when there is, how they know that the function is going on? How do they know that there is a funeral going on somewhere that they go and they hold up the Maulana or the Pandit or the pastor?
They get a tip off.
But yes, but Leonard, here it is that the ministers who are breaking the law, they're not even being questioned by the police. That shows the regard that these people have for law in this country, Leonard. That shows how uneven law is being made to be enforced for some, but not for all. The police are all over the road, stopping you, checking you for your road. You got to go pay for get your road license renewed, you know. It ain't free. You got to pay to get, and I'm not saying don't do it. You should have your vehicle tested. You should be proper. You should be fit and proper to be driving on the road. But Leonard, they're taking their time to check vehicles, to stop you all over the place and check, see that you are okay and you are licensed and everything else. But these people who are breaking the law, they're above the law.
Absolutely, Yog. And so I hope, Yog, you need to put me on speed dial, because if you decide to hold any kind of event or anything, Jandy or anything, and they hold you up, I'd have to come bail you. So put me on speed dial there. If the PPP is so confident that they won these elections, why didn't Jagdeo not ensure that the returning officers return to GCOM to clarify the situation with the 40-odd ballot boxes? Not sure who sent this.
Let me answer that. No, but let me answer that. That is the nonsense that is being peddled. The PPP can speak for themselves. They have an entire channel and they have their own stuff. But from a citizen's perspective, Leonard, who can order those people to come present themselves? It has to be a court summons. It has to be the court must say, okay, Mr. Leonard Gildarie, you were an agent or you were the returning officer or whatever you call them for so-and-so area or so-and-so polling location. You need to present yourself to the court to answer charges or to give evidence. Who else can do it? Who else can do it? Who is Lowenfield? The man who is cheating and stealing to order people to now come and do that. What he wants is for them to come and say what he wants them to say. It has to be heard by a court. It has to be that the court needs to order, needs to have an open hearing, needs to have things. That is a silly question. And it shows a lack of comprehension of how things has to happen in this country. It shows how much Kool-Aid people are drinking, and it shows how backward we are as a people. If Leonard Gildarie is a polling agent or a polling officer for the Turkine or the Diamond area, who must compel him to go give evidence?
Yes, that's a good question. I don't know how to answer you that one, but I could tell you what this person texting is saying. The supporters of the coalition have this mental deficiency in relation to what the facts are. They hold on to the inaccuracies as to what their leaders feed them and display such ignorance that defies logic. When the government makes its support an object of propaganda, it's a dangerous affair. I agree with you. When you feed people lies, people are going to propagate those lies. Good afternoon, gentlemen. If Mr. sorry, I can't pronounce that word, Mr. Lowenfield is found guilty and is pardoned by the president, could he try again for the same charges? Could he be tried again for the same charges? Leonard and Yog, Green is being, no, I can't read that one either. The man could sue me for libel or whatever it is that he could sue for. There's a caller in line. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, caller. Them boys in the studio laughing. You're on air, caller. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead, caller. You're on air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you this evening?
Well, pretty good.
Well, I'm about to put both of your feet to the fire, and
Yes.
I apologize at the beginning.
Yes.
One of the things is that I believe personally that we've gone past every other avenue, sanctions and everything.
We could barely hear you. You're coming in and out.
Yeah, one of the things that I believe is that we've gone past every sanction, every other talk, every other thing that we can do. It is time that we have the talks. But coming back to the points that people made earlier, Order 60 did stipulate those things have to happen. The reason why people don't want to take a chance with election petitions, PPP had one and it never came till and elections are already finished from 2015. AFC had one and it has not been done. So nobody has credibility in that. Secondly, please understand that the APNU supporters are Guyanese. They are part of Guyana. Whether they are wrong, misconceived, following rigors, whatever it is, their questions and their concerns are legitimate Guyanese questions that needs to be answered. This station is not PVP station or APNU station. This is an independent station. And the concerns raised here were very legitimate. The police commissioner is the police commissioner. If he says 172 people wasn't in the country, then you need to ask him why he lied, not me, the Guyanese person. These are people that are in power, made these statements, and the Guyanese people are not fools to just listen to anybody else. And so we need to understand that these things are legitimate, and these people concerns, the APNU supporters are Guyanese, and their concerns are legitimate. And let's make comments over here.
Thank you very much, caller. And Yog, maybe you want to jump into that. Very legitimate.
Yes, caller is right. Everybody has a right to their opinion, has a right to their ability to express their opinion. One of the reasons why probably we find ourselves short of patience sometimes because it's repeating the same thing over and over. And so I take your point, caller. You are right. With regards to the first point that the caller would have made, that sanctions or not, maybe it's time to have to look at this matter of having discussions. And that's, I'm hoping that tomorrow night, room 592, we will address this whole paradigm of negotiations or no negotiations, discussion or no discussion. So that is something we're looking at for tomorrow night's room 592. Leonard, coming back to the issue of the elections case and the elections petition and so forth, I think one of the things that is sad is that we, as a people, we seem to be locked to the notion that the court will not listen to an elections petition. And the caller mentioned, of course, and he's right too, that there were previous elections petitions that have not seen the light of day as yet. However, one would remind too that there were elections petitions that did see the light of day. There was the same current chairman of GCOM. She vitiated an entire election and say you need to get fresh elections. So it's both ways. What has to happen is that the weight of the petition, the necessities shown in the application is certainly something that would rest upon the court. And so one has to also appreciate, Leonard, that one of the good things about the Guyana's court system is there is something called, let me see if I get it right, CPT 2016, I think, or something like that, where the court has, as of recent, this is within the last decade, since Carl Chancellor would have been there, Carl Singh, acting Chancellor of the Judiciary would have been there. Since his time, they would have started to put things in place to speed up court processes and speed up matters in front of the court and expeditiously hear matters to bring an end to them, because it was deemed that the courts were taking too long. And it wasn't the court's fault. It was attorneys on all sides that were taking their good time about litigating matters in court to the detriment of the people who would be winning or losing those cases. That being said, though, I know that the courts, if we have an elections petition in this election here, I don't see that the courts are now going to give it the kind of importance that is needed, because too much water has flowed under this bridge, Leonard. And I would want to say I have faith in the court system of Guyana. I continue to have faith in the judiciary that they will listen to these matters and act expeditiously, especially given the statement of the chairman of GCOM on June 16th. That is a momentous release that she made, something that is, monumental release that she made, Leonard, that I'm sure the courts will pay heed to.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Elections and the COVID-19 watch here. Unfortunately, we drawn to a close. I want to thank everybody who would have tuned in on us right across this beautiful nation of ours and wherever else across the Caribbean, North America, Europe. If you have missed what we would have brought to you in terms of the news, the CCJ goes into a 2 months vacation. However, they would have indicated they were set to go on 2 months of vacation from next week, in keeping what normally happens every year. But the CCJ might more likely put that on hold if there is a court case of filing, an appeal as to what would be ruled on, and it could happen from both the coalition as well as the opposition, an appeal to the Caribbean Court of Justice. So the Caribbean Court of Justice is saying very clearly that they would be willing to work if such an appeal is filed before them. This morning, we also tell you very early last night or midnight last night, Owen Arthur, who would have led the Commonwealth team to Guyana, observer team for the elections, he's died. He would have come out and made statements about the elections in Guyana, came under attack, and he was admitted last week to a hospital in Barbados, and due to undergo an operation, and he died last evening. And so the CARICOM in itself, Chairman Ralph Gonzalez, would have spoken about his contributions to Caribbean, and the fact that in his last days he would have been very agitated about the situation in Guyana. So this evening we are going to prepare very quickly, Yog, who are the guests that we have again for room 592. That is supposed to be interesting.
Indeed, Leonard. We have, we have Mr. Winston Rogers, OC, and we have Joe Hamilton tonight. We want to talk about some of these things that would have happened in the past, lapsus linguae, whether it was a slip of the tongue, Mr. Who best probably that knows Mr. Green than Mr. Hamilton. They have been in the same political party together. So tonight we'll have a discussion on that. And, I just want to thank Suraj Singh for sending that clip. That is a great reminder that Chief Justice would have said, Leonard, a party cannot perpetuate an irregularity and then cry foul when things go wrong. Those are the words of Chief Justice Roxanne George. A party cannot perpetuate irregularity and then cry foul when things go wrong. And that is exactly what's happening in Guyana here today. Tonight will be an interesting night, Leonard.
I look forward to that. It's always good to learn, and we've been getting a good lesson in history lately, especially starting from Paul, Tennessee, Friday. If you missed that, go back to Culture Facebook, and you're going to see that. Very interesting lesson in history there. So many times recently we've been getting those lessons. So good day. Thank you very much for joining us, and we are going to be back with you 7:30 p.m. sharp. I am going to be back with you tomorrow at 1:30 with Dr. Yog Mahadeo again for room Elections Watch COVID-19. But 7:30 p.m. sharp, room 592. And we are going to continue the discussions here on topical interests and things that we should be paying attention to. So again, thank you very much for bearing with us, for being with us, for contributing, and of course for making this Culture Radio the People's Radio. Have a pleasant rest of the day.
Tips sponsored by Dex Soap. 1. Practice social distancing. 2. Wear your mask when leaving the house. 3. Wash your hands regularly for 20 seconds using our Dex Soap. 4. Cover your nose and mouth with a disposable tissue or flex elbow when you cough or sneeze. Choose Dex Soap for that extra cleanliness. Dex Soap is affordable and available nationwide.
Culture Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Culture Radio.